Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you are listening to this. This is Coffee with Kevin, and here's my coffee. Mm-hmm. Mm. Live, love, live, love, and laugh. That's my cup today. Live, love, and laugh. There's wonderful things. To live is to laugh. To laugh is to live, and to love is to live. Mm-hmm. That was my coffee. I hope you have a nice hot cup of coffee, tea, or whatever it is you're drinking this morning to you, or this afternoon, or this evening, depending on when and where you listen to this again. Oh, live, love, and laugh. That's what I want to say. I am Kevin, by the way. I'm Kevin Martin, an author. There's my book in back of me. An author, a speaker, a trainer, and a hypnotherapist, as well as a mindset coach. And I bring all those things to you in this period of time. I'm sorry for the thing with the visual. I wanted to keep the picture of my book up there. So hopefully it doesn't bother you too much watching me. I'm going to try to stay as still as possible now. But yeah, it's April 7th already. We're already close to tax day. Just a week away. Can you believe it? It's coming. You know, the year isn't going as fast as it was last year, but it's still going pretty fast. It's still going pretty fast, and I got to slow it down. And by the what that means is, I'm not going to slow it down for everyone. I'm going to slow it down for me. Means I've got to spend more time appreciating the moments in the day. I got to spend more time being present as I'm going through the day. I used to think that being present was a problem because that means you don't look forward. That means you don't make goals. And that's not true at all. And today we're going to talk a little bit about goals. But before we do, what's happening on April 7th? Well, it is National No Housework Day. For those of you that were planning a day of housework, give it up. Do something else for yourself. Rest. Do something. Enjoy no housework. It's also National Coffee Cake Day. If you want to go out and get some coffee cake, and it's National Beer Day. It's too early for beer, but I probably will not going to have one anyway. But if you drink beer, you can drink one in celebration of National Beer Day. Don't go overboard. Hmm. All right. Today, today in history. I'm looking to the side here because I'm looking for my today in history. We have some birthdays. Jackie Chan is 72 years old today. And Russell Crowe is 62, just 10 years. He's catching up, just 10 years behind. Yeah, those are the famous birthdays today. As far as famous things in history, there wasn't too much except for 1927, the first long distance television transmission. It was an image of the Secretary of Commerce, was Herbert Hoover at the time. It's sent to Washington, D.C. Oh, it's sent from Washington, D.C. to New York City. So they wanted a politician in that very first transmission, and they got it. They got it. But that brings us to TV, which is been a big thing in people's lives for many, many years now. Gosh, almost 100 years since the first transmission. So it's been a big thing in people's lives. What else happened today? World Health Organization in 1948 was created, and so yeah, it's a good day in history. I love the remember National No Housework Day. I love that thing. So today we're going to talk a little bit about goals. I titled this "Charting Your Course from Dreamer to Doer." Charting your course from dreamer to doer. Now, the third chapter in my book, and we're up to the third chapter now. Yes, we are, is actually called Do You Know Where You're Going? Because I think that goals help us put direction in our lives. there's been many times in my life that I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have direction. I was just waking up and doing what I was supposed to do for the day. But I didn't know the longer term. I hadn't thought out the longer term. What am I doing? And sometimes we get caught up in work. Sometimes we get caught up in the 9 to 5 and coming home to the family and doing the same over and over again. And we don't have the direction. Where is this taking us? Where is it going? So in the book, I talk about Alice from Alice in Wonderland. You remember her with a big cat with a big hat, friend. Alice comes to a fork in the road, and the Cheshire Cat says, "You know which way you want to go?" She says, I don't know where I'm going." And he says, "Well, if you don't know where you're going, then it doesn't matter which way you go." Do you want it not to matter which way you go in life? What decisions you make that will actually propel you in a certain direction? Sometimes even non-decisions will propel us in a certain direction. All right. I'd rather be in control of that. I'd rather have that direction defined by me. Okay. The problem with wandering, because we are all wandering around when we don't have direction. The problem with that is many people stumble through life without clear direction, which makes genuine happiness and success elusive. You can be happy without clear direction, but it's, genuine happiness, long lasting happiness. It's elusive without clear direction. Success is elusive. The success that you want is elusive. I have a really good friend and former business partner, and I love her dearly, Lisa Schermerhorn. She just got back from 2 months in Mexico. She does the home sitting thing, and it's just wonderful. She's having a good time. Um, and she talks about to me, she talks about, being living in the moment and letting the universe bring stuff to you. But I know that's the way she likes to think she lives, and she does to an extent live that way. But she also has longer term dreams. She was on a movie recently, a movie about this, not The Secret, but Zero Limits. And in getting ready for that, she applied for that. That was a goal. She wanted to do that. And then they told her yes. And they told her, several months you're going to be doing it. She was getting ready for it. And then when she filmed it, she was getting ready for, what was going to happen when the movie came out, what to do, and all that. And so even though she was professing to me, she just lets things happen, she actually has actions and has a thought about where she wants things to take her. I love being in the present during the day and as much as I can. And I love trusting that the universe is going to do things for me. But what I want the universe to do for me is real specific. So I actually plan that. I have directions. I have direction for that. And so, yeah, we don't just let ourselves be wandering. The power of focus, because when we have direction, we have focus. And having a defined goal provides motivation, improved discipline, and a sense of accomplishment. When you get there, not only when you get there, when you're on your way there, when you're accomplishing the smaller things on your way to the goal, you have the ability to celebrate. I was just saying the other day, you don't need to wait for the one big thing. You don't need to wait for you to get your big goal to celebrate. Celebrate the smaller things. There's always smaller things that you can celebrate. It's just wonderful. We got a few people in the chat before I move on. I'm going to say hello. Angel, you're back. Angel is a special friend of mine, a really wonderful friend, and she does so much for the homeless here in this community. It's amazing, and it's amazing what she does and how she does it. And I've actually had the pleasure of being part of that one time and seeing that, and she's just phenomenal. She's fantastic. Larry, how many coffee cups do you own? I own a lot, and I'm constantly looking for more. We actually have to throw away some because we don't have the room for it. But yeah, yeah. Thank you, Larry. Good morning, and good morning, Joan, to you too. Hmm. Yeah. So, you know, you need focus, you need motivation, you need a direction. Um, Committed to ink, right? I've said for just about long before I actually became a hypnotherapist and understood the mind, I understood the fact that when you're setting goals, writing them down is the most powerful thing you can do. You can get the idea in your head, but if you don't write them down, they just are a dream. They're not concrete. And then when I became a therapist and I learned things, there is something to actually enabling your body to get involved in your goal. There is something to that. So writing it down, and as you're writing it down and you're reading it in your head and you read it after it's done, it just sinks that goal deeper and deeper, sinks your mission of getting that goal deeper and deeper. So the subconscious, you actually enable this subconscious worker of yours. It's what's down there, right? The unconscious or the subconscious. It puts your desires on paper, commits your subconscious mind to the task. That's right. You get it off to the task. And so you do that. And what happens is your subconscious mind actually starts doing things in the brain. And we have a part of our brain called the RAS, the react. I'm not even going to think what it is now. I'm talking too fast, but it's the initials is the RAS. And it actually has the thoughts that are at the forefront of the RAS is what your subconscious goes looking for and keeps you steady online for. So once you programmed your goals into your mind, writing them down is a big part of it. Your mind, your subconscious starts looking for that stuff and finding out ways in which your actions can get you there. So it's really cool. And then Brian Tracy says just writing them down. You write down 10, right? 10 goals, you put them away and then check them a year later. And you'll find that you've actually achieved most of them. You don't need, I recommend having those goals written down, having them where you're reading them every day. That helps. But you don't even have to do that once you've written it down. And I've seen that in my own life. I've seen that where I had a goal and by a certain month, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze here at you. Excuse me. I had a preemptive sneeze. But my goal was by a certain month, I was going to get off the road. I had been on the road for many years, and and I was making a lot of money being on the road, and I didn't want to do that anymore. And by a certain month, and by that certain month was August, and I had put that away. I hadn't looked at it again, and it turned out that in August, the second week of August, I announced to my client that I was no longer available. I won't be on the road anymore. And it just came to me to do that. I had been thinking about it for a long time, obviously, right? But it just was in August, and I wasn't thinking about it afterwards. When I looked at it later on at the end of the year, when I looked at my goals, I said, "Oh my God, it happened in that month." It's just amazing, and I was able to do that. I was able to get myself off the road. Um, so there's a 5-step goal setting method, right? Is L try start off with limitless desires, and that's an exercise. We used to call this a blue sky exercise. If you wanna do it today, just after you're listening to this, sit down with a piece of paper and ask yourself the question, "What would I do if there were no limits? What would I do if my age wasn't limiting, and if I had all the money in the world, I had all the time in the world, and it didn't bother anyone else? What kind of things would I get done, or would I want to do?" Maybe we just launched 4 or 5 people into space, and they're been the furthest from Earth anyone has because they went around the moon. And maybe you want to go into space. That's available, by the way. That's not an impossible thing. Maybe you want to go into space. Maybe you want to buy a villa on an island somewhere. May Who knows what it is you want to do? Just blue sky it, put it down. That's the first step, is to get your mind going with what kind of things would you really like. I've been with people who I ask them, what would you want? What kind of goals would you like to have? And they can't think of any because their mind is so stifled and their life is so stifled. This is the first part. Now, there's going to be a lot of stuff on there. It's going to be kind of ridiculous, almost impossible, but that's okay. Get your mind going. And a second is to pick the top 4. Pick the top 4 that you really, really want. This is something, you're gonna look at those goals realistically. These are the ones I really want. And give them time frames, because a goal without a time frame is always something that you can do later. Am I right? Tomorrow is there's always a tomorrow. How many of you had set um, January 1st goals, right? And come January 1st, you say, ah, but there's a party, there's people around, there's this, there. I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and say, I'm not ready. I'll do it tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow. There's always a later. Put time frames that you want on it. And step 3, a lot of people don't do this. Figure out the why you really want it. What's it going to do for you? What's what's going to happen when you get it? And if you don't get it, what's going to happen then? You want leverage. You want to give yourself leverage for that, getting that goal. Anticipate the obstacles. Write them down. Write them down. People will set goals and not anticipate the obstacles, and they'll hit them when they come. And a lot of times those obstacles will hit you right in the face and you won't be able to go further. Anticipate them ahead of time so you know, so you have a plan. And when you're finished, when you got them written down, of course, that's part of it. We already talked about that. What's your first step? What's your very first step? Maybe it's going to go research the next thing to do. Maybe that's your first step. Maybe your first step is I got to go apply for something. What is the very first step you can do? That's not too huge, but there's always something to start it off on. Dreamers versus doers, right? There's action versus inaction. And taking immediate first step is what separates people who merely dream and those who do. And you want to be a doer. I want to be a doer. I've been a doer all my life. And it's not a lot of huge things. Yes, I would have never this latest book that you see behind me, it is actually the second book. The first book actually was published by a publisher. I rewrote the whole thing and I republished this myself. And then I did a second edition. But that very first time I wrote a book, it wouldn't have got done if I didn't open up the computer and start writing. I just published another book. It's under I ghost wrote it. It's under a company name that I'm associated with. When I started it, I had to do the research as to how I wanted to do it. That was the first thing I did. I did the research. How do you ghostwrite? How do you do something that's not in your name? And then it was about a subject I didn't know much about. What do I do? What's my first step? So yeah, you have to find that first step and start it, and then it rolls on and on and on. It's like clearing out your garage, and I say that because not all of us have garages, but those of us that do, there's a few of us that have it really nice and organized, but not many. So if you've let your garage go for a long time or your attic, where do you start? You start in the corner somewhere. You don't have to do it all in one day. You don't have to spend hours in a day, but you need to start. First step. The risk of doing nothing while taking action has cost, and it does. You have to do something, you have to plan it. There are far less long range risk of comfortable inaction. So, not that there are far less, but the risk of taking action, the cost that that risk has is far less than the long range risk of comfortable inaction. And it is comfortable to not do anything. But then what happens? There's been many times I say, well, I really wanted to do this. But I'm not gonna do it right now. A year later, it's like, I really should have done that. A couple years later, it's like, whoa, look at the people who did that when I was even after I wanted to do it, I should have done it then. Now, let's talk about your daily compass. How do you get to do this? You review those goals daily, okay? Where you'll see them by the bedside, in the mirror, wherever it is. Review them daily, especially for the first 30 days. All right. Make course corrections. It's like a pilot. A pilot is going from Boston to California. It's not a straight line. It's never a straight line. Even shorter trips, they're not straight lines. They have to have course corrections. There's other traffic out there. There's winds, there's weather going on. You have to make course corrections. Make your course corrections. It doesn't make you a failure. Matter of fact, this is how successful people do it. They have course corrections. And finally, a call to action. Complete your first steps today or tomorrow, the latest, if you've already got your plan scheduled for today. Tomorrow, the latest, to begin your journey. That's right. Now let's look at our quotes, first of all. And this quote that's been going there, tragedy doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. That's why the very first thing we talked about is getting your goals, writing them down. This was the quote at the beginning of this third chapter. Many stumble through life and on the edge of the abyss without knowing where they're going. That's Pope John Paul II. Many stumble through life. I love that quote. I love that visual on the edge of the abyss. Because without knowing you're going, you could fall in that abyss anytime. And that abyss might be physical, where where you're going or not going, or it could be the more so the metaphorical abyss, or the emotional abyss, or whatever it is. Direction gives us focus. Direction helps keep clarity in our mind. There are risks and cost to a program of action, like we were saying. You got to take that first step. Yeah, there's cost to doing that, but they are far less than the long range risk and cost of comfortable inaction. We've already said that. To become successful, you must take action. Merely to know is not sufficient. It is necessary both to know and to do. Heck, all of the successful people we know in history, they've all taken action. All the successful people today, the people that, um, whether you like him or not, Mark Zuckerberg, if he hadn't taken action to create this software, and from what I understand, it was so he could start dating. But if he hadn't taken action, it would have just been a thought in his head. Facebook never would have existed. There would have been some other ones that might not have been as good as that. A lot of us are on Facebook. We keep tabs with our families that are far away. I do that because I moved down to Florida, and just about all my other family is far away. It's great to have Facebook. Um, if you shoot for the stars and hit the moon, it's okay. But you've got to shoot for something. A lot of people don't even shoot. That's that wandering generality. I didn't mention that. Zig Ziglar has that, created that word, wandering generality. Someone that's going around without goals on the edge of the abyss, as Pope John Paul put it. Those are the people that don't even shoot. Shoot for the goals. You don't get them, that's fine. Don't make them so high. Make them a little easier. Don't make them so easy that you're going to say, I'm going to do what I did the last 10 weeks. No, that's not a goal. I'm going to do a little more than I did the last 10 weeks in whatever it is you're measuring. So yeah, I hope this inspires you to go out and get that paper, get that pen and paper, write down the things that you would like in life. Blue sky it, right? No limits. Spend some time getting your mind creative on, hey, what would be coolest thing for me? What would be the coolest thing for me? I love the ability to test drive some of the really, some of the sports cars that go for, you know, more than most people make in a lifetime sometimes. It's like I love the ability to test drive those. I love the ability to drive in a race. And those are goals that you can actually accomplish. You can rent those vehicles. You can pay to be able to drive on a race course. So if I have those are my blue skies. I don't know that they're practical for me. I wanted to fly so much when I was a kid. My father was a pilot. I had gone up a few times, but I just love going to the airports, watching the planes come in and out and stuff like that. I wanted to be up there. Now that was a goal to be up there and fly. That turned into something a little different. That turned when I was in college. It turned out I want to fly, but I want to fly a hang glider, and I figured out how to. I figured out how where the club was in college. They had a club, and how to get involved in it and how to do it without even actually buying my hang glider. Those were my first steps. Yeah, I got involved and I got to do that. And then I wanted to be high up in the air. So another goal was to go parachuting. It evolved from my thing about going in the air, and I went parachuting, and it was wonderful. But I had to have a goal for it. It just didn't appear in my head one day and say, "Oh, why don't I go drive down to the local airport where they have parachutes?" No, I gave it a lot of thought, talked to people and everything. And then I took the final step was to, well, then one of the first steps was to find out where I can go parachuting. Where can you jump out of a perfectly good plane? That's what I look for. My friends thought I was nuts. So yeah, we all have things that we want to do, and sometimes those things as childhood we've never done them, and we want to do them. One of the things has to do with flying is I've always wanted to fly a glider. Well, I now live in a place where I've sea gliders all over the place. And so that may be on my list. I may take that blue sky one that used to be a blue sky one and put it down and say, hey, yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that. So you do that. Find out what you want out of life, what you want out of yourself to be able to find. And you have a phenomenal week. And remember, it's not up to me wishing you a phenomenal week. It's up to you to make it that way because it's in your control. It's in your control to feel the way you want to feel. It's in your control to take those negative emotions that come to you. As soon as you notice them, it's in your control to switch them and get it back. If you want to know any more about any of this stuff, reach out to me, DM me on Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever you're listening to this. You will find my email on LinkedIn in my contact info. But you can also find me at Pause Effects, not PAWS, POS, short for positive, POS Effects, EFFECTS.com. And I'd be happy to talk with you about anything you want to talk about that has to do with personal development, that has to do with creating the better life, that dream life for you. All right. Take care, all. Bye bye.